There's been a dramatic and disturbing rise in carjackings across the country since the start of the pandemic. Nearly 90% of the time, criminals get away with it. Our next video is shocking because the two carjackers aren't even old enough to legally drive. And in their brazen attempt to steal a man's car, they hurt him so severely that he died. It's March 2021 in Washington, D.C. Cell phone video from a bystander shows two teenage girls stealing a car while its owner, Mohammed Anwar, clings to the open driver's door. The carjackers are just 15 and 13 years old. They use a stun gun on Anwar and gun the engine before crashing a block away.
She's stealing their car. We called the cops. Call the cops. Call the cops.
Good Samaritans rushed to help in the aftermath of the crash, stopping the teenagers from fleeing the scene.
These girls stole the car.
Hey, come out.
Hey, they stole the car. They stole the car.
The victim, Mr. Mohammed Anwar, was critically hurt in the crash and died later at a hospital. The two teenagers are arrested at the scene and taken into custody. They later pleaded guilty to murder and are serving a sentence at a juvenile detention center until they reach the age of 21. Gayani DeSilva is a child and adolescent psychiatrist. Gayani, it's really shocking that these girls were just 13 and 15 years old. I mean, it's just shocking to see girls that young committing a crime like this.
It really is, Elizabeth, to see young teenagers committing crimes that are so violent these days. But there seems to be a rise in carjackings among teens. And I'm not sure why that is. It could be social media. It could be a joyride in the 2020s, or it could be that they're on their way to another crime. But teenagers, young teenagers especially, their brains haven't fully developed yet, like their frontal lobes haven't developed yet. And so they really lack the judgment to know what their consequences might be.
Do you really think, they drive off at a rapid rate with the victim hanging on for dear life, the Uber Eats driver hanging on to the outside of the car? They had to know that that was dangerous.
Oh, yes. I believe that teenagers do realize that there's dangerousness involved in their behaviors and their choices. However, they have this absolute, very strong belief in their invincibility. And so they're more prone to take a lot of risks that other adults, older people would never think of because our frontal lobes are much more developed and understand that we're not invincible.
One of the really shocking parts of the video is when the car crashes and the girls climb out, and one of them is expressing concern only because she left her cell phone in the car. No concern for the Uber Eats driver who's been fatally wounded, just concerned about the phone.
Well, the phones these days for teenagers are an extension of themselves. And again, they are not fully developed. Their brains are not fully developed. So they may be more connected to their phones and seem like their decisions are quite superficial.
By the time that they get out at the age of 21, I'm just wondering how much better off they're going to be in life and how much safer.
Well, it's a really good question to think about what their brain development might be and what their ability to make rational and reasonable decisions might be at the age of 20 or 21. At around age 16 or 17, we expect that their brains have developed enough to be able to understand abstract thinking. Until then, they're quite concrete in their thinking, and they may only see one or two choices when they think about their decision-making process. But by the time they're about 16 or 17 years old, they should be able to see a range of options. Hopefully, while they're in detention, they get some rehabilitation and that they get some normal challenges to their brain to help them develop this decision-making process. So by the time they're 21, if they've had the right kinds of interactions with people in juvenile detention, we would expect that their brains be developed adequately.
All right, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. 64-year-old Mohammed Anwar was a father and grandfather. He had immigrated to the United States in 2014 and was working as an Uber Eats driver. His family is heartbroken. iCrime will be right back.